subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Went out of bounds. Bang! Under inertia, he landed in front of the Dong Haitai small forward who was sitting down. At this moment, Sendou Mitsuki raised his hands, like a snowy owl with wings spread out, covering the sky and the sun. The surge of adrenaline, coupled with the words of assistant coach Zhongchai Longji before the game, made him uncontrollably excited for a while, overlooking the figure that he had defeated in front of him. And the Dong Haitai, small forward. At this time, he was sitting on the ground with a blank face, thinking, just now, what happened? Then he looked up and met Sendou Mitsuki's adrenaline-surging eyes in front of him. How to describe it against the background of that snow-white silver hair? It seems. Even his eyes are full of murderous bright red. It was probably only 10 seconds, but the shock that Sendou Mitsuki brought to Asakawa's show was beyond words. Even though he was a high school player and had seen more terrifying physical blocks at the high school level, he was still stunned like everyone else at the scene. After all, he was a junior high school student. Even he was still a first-year junior high school student. Although his elasticity could not be compared with the top high school jumping players, he was younger and shorter, which made Sendou Mitsuki's performance in Asakawa show's heart score sky high. He sighed again in his heart. The impact in front of him was really shocking. Junior high school, first year Asakawa, Sho couldn't help rubbing his eyes. If he just jumped high, it would be fine, but such continuous jumping ability was undoubtedly a talent, and the defensive judgment and awareness when blocking it was outrageous. Okayama's offense improved significantly after Sendou Mitsuki's performance in this round, mainly because the first-year students who played in a foreign war for the first time were not so nervous. Sendou Mitsuki and Donji Keiru played a pick and roll. After the pick and roll, Donji Keiru made an accurate pass to Sendou Mitsuki, who was coming down. Oops, hurry up and help defend. In fact, there was no need to remind them, not only the help defense, but even before the words were spoken, after seeing Sendou Mitsuki slowly coming over, the faces of several people in the restricted area became visibly gloomy, and then they double-teamed Sendou Mitsuki in a panic. Until Sendou Mitsuki casually hit the ball towards the backboard. The next second, the rebounding ability of the restricted area operating room came into play. Bang! A silver light suddenly appeared in the air, and Okayama's black jersey suddenly flashed in front of the basket, and with a loud bang, the ball that was hit and bounced back was pushed directly into the basket by a hand that was very fast and just high enough. In an instant, all the players of Dong Haitai on the field, they all looked frozen. Chapter 021. Fighting spirit will be reflected in the performance and will also be conveyed to the audience. You must have the determination to shoulder everything. On the court, the game time was running out. Suddenly, the overwhelming defense of Shantang Guanyue came again. As if he was tireless, he jumped up again. Although he was a little far away from the opponent, Shantang's restricted area block had a terrifying coverage area, and his fingertips still touched the opponent's shot into the restricted area. The arc was naturally ridiculous. That monster! Is this his sixth block? One quarter hasn't even passed yet. How many does he want to block? At this time, everyone at the scene couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise at Shantang Guanyue's hot pot performance. There were still 4 minutes left before the end of the first quarter, but Shantang Guanyue had completed 6 blocks. If he played the whole game, how many would he have to block? The power forward of Dong Haitai suddenly turned black after being blocked. At the same time, it was not known whether it was lucky or unfortunate that the ball that was pushed away by Shantang Guanyue finally fell into the hands of the Dong Haitai center. After getting the ball by luck, facing Tian Jincheng's defense, he did not force it immediately, but faked a move and shook it. After getting Tian Jincheng up, he chose to shoot. Tian Jincheng, who jumped up, immediately gritted his teeth in annoyance. I jumped too easily and too anxiously. Now I can only watch my opponent lay up in front of me. On the opposite side, the center of Dong Haitai breathed a sigh of relief. I thought, This round is over. But the next second, he was numb in my ears. I almost heard a trampling sound in the air. The incandescent light of the dome of the stadium was suddenly blocked by a figure that suddenly rose up, covering the sky and the sun. In the light and shadow of light and dark, Tian Jinsheng and the center of Dong Haitai only saw a black figure with silver on the top, rushing over quickly. At the same time, I vaguely saw the number 12. Then, that slightly ferocious face. Bang! Shantang Guangyue covered the sky with one hand. From the edge of the penalty area on the other side, he almost spanned 3/4 of the penalty area and swatted away the attack of the center of Dong Haitai. This was also his amazing 7th block in this quarter. In an instant, the atmosphere of the stadium, which had been slightly warming up, was forced into silence by Shantang Guangyue. From the point guard to the center of Dong Haitai, no one was spared. Shantang Guangyue blocked the opponents one by one in the first quarter. Of course, this was not his own credit. At least, the first-grade friends, knowing his defensive habit of only blocking in the penalty area, are trying their best to block the outside line and drive the opponents into the penalty area as much as possible. At this time, the ball fell into the hands of the small forward of Dong Haitai again. Changed to usual times. He would be very happy to get the ball like this, but now he was panicking. He was sure that this was not luck, but the beginning of misfortune. Under the terrifying defensive deterrence of Shantang Guangyue, the ball was like a hot potato in his hands. He was standing near the free throw line and was stunned. Shantang Guangyue, who had just landed after blocking the ball, immediately glanced over. The moment their eyes met, the Dong Haitai small forward clearly saw a hint of jubilation, excitement. This made him feel unprecedented fear, and he felt that this guy's eyes were red, as if he wanted to eat him alive. Immediately, he subconsciously avoided Shantang Guangyue's gaze. At the same time, Shantang Guangyue, in the midst of the depression, despair, fear, and all kinds of negative emotions, the inexplicable spirit that rose up in the crowd soared rapidly. Although the previous rebounds were also ridiculously strong, they were not as obvious as the violent, direct confrontation of blocking. His eyes swept over one by one, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. Shantang Guangyue, playing basketball. It turns out to be so cool. Damn it. You shoot. What are you hesitating about? Standing stupidly. Get down and stand stupidly. Coach Dong Haitai looked at the idiot who was holding the ball and fell on the edge of the free throw line. He yelled angrily, and this shout also made the unlucky guy on the court startled and immediately came back to his senses. He raised his hand and planned to shoot. However, he was a little ahead of the free throw line, which was also within the restricted area of the paint zone. With the help of the restricted area anesthesia room, Shantang Guangyue immediately rushed up at a very fast speed. But he frowned slightly and did not jump immediately, because the Dong Haitai small forward who was just about to shoot was stunned after seeing Shantang Guangyue rushing out, and the shooting only jumped up to the height of a matchbox. It was obviously a mistake caused by hesitation, and the bigger mistake was that he didn't even dare to throw the ball after jumping up. So, beep beep, the referee blew the whistle immediately. The member of the Dong Haitai basketball team who temporarily acted as a referee looked at his predecessor with a complicated expression, but facing such an outrageous scene, he could only blow the whistle. The whistle was blown, and the airflow passing through was seriously insufficient, and it was weak and trembling. The whistle sound took several turns for a while. There were boos everywhere. The boos were obviously not for Sendou Mitsuki, but for their own small forward. Normally, they could understand such performance from Sendou Mitsuki. But today was different. Asakawa Sho, he was watching from the sidelines. The captain of the Sanno team, who had sent Tokaitai to the national competition, had a round-robin final against Kitanojo that gave everyone the courage to never back down. The third-year students present all remembered it vividly. Even because of that game, they successfully passed the first round in the national competition that year, and even fought to the end in the second round after losing. With such a reason, how could they bear it? And at this time, Asakawa Sho, who was watching the game in the crowd, couldn't help but feel emotional when he saw this scene. Fighting spirit will be reflected in the performance and will also be conveyed to the audience. As a player, you not only represent yourself and the team, but also all the people who support them. Whether it is pressure or expectation, you must have the determination to bear it all. On the side, Asakawa Yui nodded. My own brother, that's the only thing worth praising. The courage to never back down. Chapter 022. Some people at the scene have already changed sides and applauded Sean Domitsuki. Stupid. Idiot. You. Can you be any weaker? The worst that can happen is that you get blocked. Even if you get blocked, it's much better than standing there stupidly and making that kind of idiotic mistake for others to see. The coach of Dong Haitai called a timeout and cursed the players as soon as they returned to the bench. The small forward of Dong Haitai also knew how outrageous he was just now. He lowered his head and eyes with a bitter face and welcomed the storm from the coach, but did not dare to say a word. The players on the bench also found it difficult to understand why they did not dare to shoot in that position, when Shantang Guangyue was still quite far away from him. However, only he himself understood. The silver-haired demon who pounced on him was like a beast with bloodshot eyes. The terrifying spirit that wanted to devour him was almost like a real picture. How terrible it was. Mingshan, you go next. Attack boldly. Although the opponent can jump a lot, he can't block every attack. Believe me, attack boldly. Coach Don Katitai asked the substitute small forward to replace the guy who was just scared by Sendou Mitsuki. On the other side, on the bench of Okayama, assistant coach Nakashiba originally wanted to let Sendou Mitsuki go off the court to rest. After all, this was only the first quarter. Sendou blocked a lot of shots, but also jumped a lot. In addition to conserving physical strength, he was also worried about injuries caused by too frequent full-strength bursts. Besides, Okayama's lead is now almost 20 points. Even if he holds the idea that he can't beat the opponent too badly in the training match, Sendou has no need to stay on the court. It's just, when Sendou Mitsuki heard that he was going to be replaced, he was immediately unhappy. Just kidding. These are all points. One block is 4 points. Where can you find such a good team to block shots? Just like this. Coach, I can do it. My stamina is fine. If it's not possible, you can wait until I run out of stamina before replacing me. Sendou Mitsuki spoke up quickly, and this move was just caught by Asakawa Sho. I thought, this Sendou classmate is also the type who will go all out. Really good. Looking at Sendou Mitsuki, whose face was full of I want to play basketball, but whose silver hair had deepened in color due to the sweat, assistant coach Nakashiba Ruji smiled helplessly. For such players who are new to the junior high school arena, I know what they are thinking. Although it is just a training match, it is also a formal arena that they have never stepped into before. The feelings of the newcomers are understandable. As long as they really like basketball, they will definitely be reluctant to leave the court. Well, although I didn't think Sendou would be like this at the beginning. After all, Sendou always has a very clear goal on the court and almost only does what he likes to do. Rebounds, blocks. But I seem to have misunderstood Senton's actually more hungry than the average player, as if there is something other than winning or losing and likes and dislikes that tempts him to do his best. Okay, Sentong, but promise me that if your body shows negative feedback, you must tell me in time. Back from the timeout. The game continues. The small forward who came off the bench started the offensive mode as soon as he came on. Facing Okayama's defense that blocked the shot from the outside, he passed it in one step and rushed to the inside, wanting to challenge Sentong Mitsuki. His purpose is self-evident. Position. You have to rely on performance to grab it. Since the starting player he got was rubbish, he took this opportunity to tell the coach that his training during this period was definitely not worse than that of the starting players. However, he also knew very well what kind of style Sendou Mitsuki's block was. After he attacked, he was very smart not to fight, but to avoid Sendou Mitsuki. After jumping up, he made a beautiful pull-up in the air. He avoided Sendou Mitsuki's block, and then reached the ball to the basket from bottom to top. Got it. No, Sendou Mitsuki's devilish voice sounded in his ears. The substitute small forward panicked, and then he saw that the opponent was using the agility and bounce speed that he could not experience personally off the court. After the second jump, he directly nailed the ball on the backboard. And this is also Sendou Mitsuki's 8th block. There were still 3 minutes left before the end of the first quarter. Some people at the scene had already turned against him and silently counted the block data for him when Sendou Mitsuki blocked the shot, while more people subconsciously applauded him. That's right. Although Sendou Mitsuki played in the stadium of Tokaitai, his amazing performance conquered the students of Tokaitai. This made Asakawa Sho, who was sitting on the sidelines, a little dazed. He had seen many players in the past, from junior high school to high school, but it was the first time he had seen someone who could do this. Chapter 023. Can anyone explain why someone can cover it with their face? 8 blocks. It seems that the limit that Tokaitai can bear has been reached, because Shantang Guangyue found that the opponents seemed to be a little scared and dared not attack the paint area anymore. They would rather shoot against the close defense of Okayama's outside line than come to the restricted area. This made Shantang Guangyue feel a little speechless. Although there were more rebounds, it was not as cost-effective as blocking. You, stand up. Hey, come in and see. I'm the only one in the restricted area, faced with Shantang Guangyue's provocation. The Tokaitai players twitched their mouths after hearing it, and thought he was talking to the air. Seeing that the other party was indifferent, Shantang Guangyue could only continue to increase the intensity. The students of Tokaitai are watching. You are not afraid, right? No way. In a free throw round on the Okayama side, Shantang Guangyue said to the center next to him with a smile. Tokaitai center, uncomfortable, but don't take the bait. With 1 minute left in the first quarter, Shantang Guangyue's block count was fixed at 8. There was no other way. After all, among all the statistics in basketball, steals and blocks are definitely the most difficult to get. On the court, on the Dong Haitai side, a new player who had just come off the bench was running without the ball on the perimeter. His teammate made a good ground pass. After receiving it, he did not retreat like other Dong Haitai players. Or, the new force must be aggressive, drive straight in. With his long arms stretched out, he planned to face Shantang Guangyue's defense and attack the restricted area. This made Shantang Guangyue's eyes light up. Quickly make up for the defense. With the blessing of the restricted area anesthesia room, Shantang Guangyue not only has increased physical abilities such as jumping and agility, but also has the prediction and sense of space for blocking. With a good sense of defensive space, moving forward one step can make the opponent feel threatened. At this time, the powerful defender of Dong Haitai was leaping up and spreading his wings. His eyes were full of determination. But because of the defensive position of Shantang Guangyue, his action in the air made him make a throw-in gesture very naturally in the next second. Even from the point of release, it was an exaggerated throw-in with a high arc. Although such a shot can avoid being blocked to a certain extent, the high arc, the long flight process, and too many uncontrollable factors will cause the hit rate to be much lower than the normal shot. But in fact, even if he shot like this, he would not reach the stage where he needed to consider the hit rate, because the person in front of him was Shantang Guangyue. Snap! The substitute defender of Dong Haitai was surprised and helpless to see that the ball he threw out was still slipped by Shantang Guangyue's fingertips. Another one. The 9th block. Oh my God. Is it going to be a double-digit block in a single quarter? At this moment, whether it was the students of Tokaitai, the coaches of both teams, or the Asakawa brothers and sisters, they all subconsciously leaned forward. At the same time, cheers for this wonderful first quarter performance. But it's not over yet. Perhaps it was the courage of the substitute player who was knocked to the ground by Sendou Mitsuki after the block that infected the other players of Tokaitai. After grabbing the block ball, the power forward of Tokaitai was about to lay up against Tian Jinsheng on the other side. At the same time, Sendou Mitsuki was also entangled by the opponent's center. But when attacking the basket and stepping into the restricted area, Sendou Mitsuki, who has the restricted area anesthesia room, still shook off his opponent in an instant, jumped up again with an exaggerated bounce speed, and completed a block on the other side. 10. The ball bounced to the backboard. After rebounding, it was grabbed by the point guard who cut in. At the same time, after seeing the block shot, Shantang Mitsuki just fell, and then jumped up and shot. Bang! Shantang Mitsuki jumped continuously. 11. After continuous jumps, it was still not enough to fully accumulate the height. The ball bounced on the basket and entered the rebound round. Shantang immediately prepared to fight for the rebound. But the power forward and center of Dong Haitai were fighting like crazy. In addition, the rebound ball landed a little off. The ball unexpectedly was picked up by the substitute player who was knocked to the ground by the block at the beginning of this round. He turned around and was about to shoot, but Shantang Mitsuki came up again. This ball is a bit like the round where Shantang was scared and didn't dare to shoot. Learning from the advanced experience of the predecessors, the substitute player of Dong Haitai chose to throw the ball out firmly. Seeing this scene, the students watching the game immediately cheered for him. But 3 steps and 2 steps, Shantang leaped with full speed. Height reached the top. After seeing the scene in front of him, the substitute player finally understood why his senior was so scared at that moment. Just this momentum was full of oppression. And then, he made a mistake in his shot, and his hand slipped and shot an absurdly low trajectory. But even if it was lower, it was still a jump shot. But, bang! Can anyone explain why someone can block with his face? On the scene, everyone was stunned when they saw the blood on Shantang Mitsuki's face. Stunned like a wooden chicken. The next second, boom! Shantang Mitsuki, wearing a black jersey. At that moment, everyone seemed to be able to see the silver spirit that seemed to be substantial and steaming on him. Chapter 024. Number 353 Black Basketball World Ogioka Kasayuki's ability entry is fingertip magic. In fact, the so-called steaming spirit was simply because Shantang Guangyue felt that blocking with his face was a bit embarrassing, but the terrifying expression after the pain, plus the silver hair curling back after the ball hit his cheek, made everyone feel the extremely oppressive aura, like the arrival of the devil. Of course, Shantang's red eyes, which would spread bloodshot when adrenaline surged, also contributed a lot to deepen this impression. So far, Shantang Guanyue's number of blocks has been fixed at 12. In the subsequent games, because of the hemostatic stick in his nose, assistant coach Zhang Shiba said that he would not let him play no matter what. In fact, the assistant coach was secretly glad in his heart. In the first quarter, they were leading by more than 20 points. If Shantang played like this without any effort, wouldn't he torture the opponent by 80 points in the whole game? If he played again, how would he deal with the opponent's coach? Helpless. After stopping the bleeding, Sendou Mitsuki was forced to clock out in 1 quarter. But I am lucky if I lose, and I am destined to win. Sendou Mitsuki was on the bench, watching Ogioka Kasayuki leading the sparring team and still suppressing Tokaitai until the end of the game. The system's entry extraction, the luck seemed to compensate him, and he scored a goal. But now, the most important thing is the other side. On the court, at the end of the game, the score was fixed at 128-76. Well, Ogioka Kasayuki did all kinds of bad things. He didn't play out the 80-point difference, but he also played a full 52 points. At this time, assistant coach Nakashiba Longji carefully glanced in the direction of Tokaitai's bench. Not surprisingly, the old man on the opposite side, who had a good relationship with his own coach, had silver hair standing up like Sendou. As for the players of Tokaitai, when the whistle blew, they all held their breath and their minds went blank. All the students in the entire stadium also showed disappointment when the whistle blew. Okayama, all freshmen, the score difference, 52 points. What does this mean? This is simply a high school student playing against a junior high school student. This is too outrageous. It happened right in front of everyone, and everyone witnessed it with their own eyes. It is impossible not to believe it. Moreover, it was not just one person who caused this tragedy. There were 2. I thought that the silver-haired devil who was unexpectedly eliminated in the first quarter was definitely an exception. But I didn't expect. Okayama actually has a master. That no. 13. Thinking of the opponent's comprehensive performance in the next 3 quarters after Shantang Guanyue left the court, everyone felt a chill when they thought of those scenes. Is it reasonable? It's not reasonable at all. How can a freshman in the first grade of junior high school play like the ace of a national level team? Or could he have been playing basketball since birth? Break through, organize, defend, block. Rebounds. That OG Okakasa Yuki, who is almost the same body shape as Sendou Mitsuki, although none of his blocks and rebounds are as explosive as Sendou Mitsuki's. But he led a group of freshmen and filled in all the skills and data that a player could imagine. Even because he played too reasonably, the data rose extremely evenly. Under the silent crushing, when everyone realized that he was everywhere, the time was almost over 2 quarters. Off the court, the coach of Tokaitai was in a mess. He knew that his team had no chance to play well this year. A team like them that did not have the background of a basketball giant like Teak was like this. If they wanted to play well, they had to rely on luck. And this luck, which accounted for the majority, refers to the quality of recruits every year. As for the matter of picking up leaks like the year before last, it was indeed magnificent, but it was also based on the fact that Tokaitai was the number 3 seed at the time. Without this as a foundation, the bargain after the fierce battle between Okayama and Kitano Castle would never be picked up. Instantly, Coach Tokaitai had many thoughts in his mind. The most, why did Kitakawara Masaru do this? In the past, although he envied the captain and ace of Asakawa Sho, he could still tolerate his talent. But Ogioka Kasayuki, Sendou Mitsuki, you, a junior who was a college player, how could you discover a player who would definitely be called a monster in the whole country in the future, and another player who is even called the devil by your own players now? Coach Tokitai. Damn, there was no news about these 2 talented players in Ibaraki. As for the fact that they were geniuses from other places, that was even more impossible. Who would be willing to come to a place like Ibaraki to poach people from other places? They were definitely local, and Kitakawara Masaru must have done something to hide it from everyone. Thinking of this, Coach Tokaitai couldn't help but admire Kitakawara Masaru's generosity and handwriting. TSK. This year, Okayama is definitely going to make a big splash at the national level. Just when Coach Tokai was brainstorming like crazy, but didn't make any correct analysis at all. On Okayama's side, the first-year students have already rushed forward, first surrounded OG Okakasa Yuki, and then pulled Sendou Mitsuki in, clapping their hands, patting shoulders, and everyone hugged each other to express their excitement about the victory in the first junior high school game. At the same time, they all thought that if it was Sendou Mitsuki and OG Okakasa Yuki, as long as they were on the court, there might be no possibility of losing. Look at this game. When Sendou was there, the opponent collapsed in 1 quarter. When he was not there, OG Oka took over the baton and led them to victory in a completely different way from Sendou. It was at this time that they realized that OG Okakasa Yuki, who was usually drilled like everyone else when facing Sendou, was very powerful but not that outstanding in the team training matches with his predecessors. In fact, when he was fully deployed, he was outrageous. But for this, Sendou Mitsuki had actually accepted this fact a long time ago. Just watch. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability entry of No. 353 Black Basketball World OG Okakasa Yuki. Fingertip Magic. Fingertip Magic. LV1 in the entire court. You can quickly pass the ball to your teammates. The prediction, accuracy, and teammates' hit bonus when passing the ball will be enhanced to a certain extent. Your fingertip magic will lead to a fleeting splendor like fireworks. How can this be an ordinary person? Chapter 025. What happened? After half a month, the style of Shan Tangwang Yu's playing has changed. Before I knew it, more than half a month had passed since the training match between Okayama and Tokaidai, and the preliminaries of the All-China tournament were not far from start. At this time, Okayama team training match. To be more precise, it was a key battle to determine the final starting and substitute list. The score on the field was 69-47. The substitute list led by Sendou Mitsuki and OG Okakasa Yuki was ahead of the main third-year players who were competing for the starting list. However, this description of both sides is still too one-sided, because there is no doubt that Sendou Mitsuki and OG Okakasa Yuki have been leading everyone since they joined the basketball team. The two teams have such a lineup only because Coach Kitagawara Masa took into account the confrontation. But for the onlookers, it was almost like this. On the side of Sendou, and Okayama. Except for the two of them, their teammates were all second and third-year players who were competing for substitute seats. On the other side, it was the main third-year players who had to compete with Sendou and Okayama for the starting position. On the court, the free throws of the Sentong team were missed, and Sentong Mitsuki grabbed the rebound and passed it to the outside for a second attack. The offensive round continued. The third-year point guard Shirkai Hyde rushed out and pressed the ball fiercely, while the second-year point guard of the Sentong team, who had just missed the free throw, tightly protected the ball. At this moment, the call from the side of his ear saved him from the dilemma. Pass the ball. As expected, it was Sentong Mitsuki. At the same time, after the last training match at Okayama Tokaidai, it took a long time for Asakawa Yui to have the opportunity to watch the game. The first time she stepped into the stadium, her eyes widened. Because of this game, from the actions of Sentong Mitsuki, it's not right, before this, Sentong Mitsuki's range of activities, or the range of receiving the ball, was limited to the restricted area, and it was almost impossible to receive the ball outside the restricted area. But now, she actually saw Sentong Mitsuki take the initiative to leave his favorite restricted area and run to the top of the arc to ask for the ball. But no one else in the gym was surprised at this time. The third-year team, as the opponent, was all panicked when they saw this scene. As the spectators, they were full of expectations, and Shan Guangyue did not disappoint their reaction. The moment his teammate passed the ball to him, Shan Guangyue felt that his vision was better than ever before. The distribution of players on the field, including the blurred peripheral vision, was all clearly imaged at this moment. Subconsciously, several passing routes appeared in his mind. The next second, Shan Guangyue's eyes lit up in a rapid operation of the brain. In fact, when he completed all this, his teammate's ball had just been delivered to his eyes, but Shan Guangyue did not catch it at all. Directly backhand shot. Snap! The second-year power forward who cut into the penalty area was surprised to find that the ball had passed through the entire third-year defense line and was accurately delivered to his chest before he could be surprised. And here, it happened to be the extremely dangerous hinterland of the offensive area. Catch the ball. Score a layup. 71-47. Outside the court, Asakawa Yui's eyes widened suddenly. And as school was over, more and more students gathered around. Their surprised expressions filled the door of the Okayama arena. Ow, how did you pass it? Just one shot. Why did the basketball team play differently after returning from the away game for more than half a month? At the same time, Okayama Kaseyuki, as a teammate, also glanced at Sendou Mitsuki speechlessly. Such a pass, no matter how many times you watch it, is still so amazing. If it was just a flash of inspiration, it would be fine, but for Sendou, it is normal. It is just a touch, but it can accurately penetrate the opponent's defense. If there is a slight deviation, the ball will be intercepted just now, and it will never be passed to such a deep offensive position. It can be said that Sendou's credit for scoring this ball is 90%, and the remaining 10% is the running position of the second-year predecessor. Thinking of the scene of the second-year predecessor's attack, just now, Okayama Yuki frowned again, thinking, did Sendou's fleeting pass just now even take into account the predecessor's height and receiving habits? He definitely didn't see the adjustment action of the predecessor just now. After receiving the ball, he raised his hand and went to the basket. Such a passing skill is really perfect. At least now, I can't do it. Okayama Yuki, who took a deep breath. If it was the blocking and rebounding that Shantang was good at, he wouldn't have such an emotion, but passing, if he lost to Shantang in terms of technique, it's a bit annoying. The two sides changed sides. The third-year team served the ball from the baseline and quickly advanced to the front court. Because they had not scored for several rounds in a row, the third-year team was obviously a little anxious at this time, and they were extremely eager to score points. So their offensive choice was to boldly choose to attack near the basket. Snap, the third-year shooting guard, used the cover of the center to avoid the defense of Okayama Kaseyuki, and then changed his appearance. Sure enough, except for Okayama, the defense on the outside is easy to play. Breakthrough. Tang was pulled out, and now he just had to rush before the others came to defend. The paint area on the right. A shot near the basket. Just when the third-year shooting guard felt that he had secured the ball. The next second, he suddenly heard a cry. Jinyu, stop! After the captain Suzuwa Shigeru's voice, there followed a terrifying sound of the jersey being pulled by the strong speed and being picked up by the wind. Bang! The third-year shooting guard's shot was suddenly blown away by a figure jumping out from the side. And the ball really flew far. All the way. It flew directly to the gate. Among the Okayama students who were joining in the fun outside the gate, someone caught the ball with a confused look on his face. Asakawa Yui. That's right. This is right now. Tang. This is the style of painting. Chapter 026. The real starting day of Tang, taking over the basketball from the hands of the predecessor. No surprises. The final starting lineup. Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakase Yuki were selected. Center, Sendou Mitsuki. Power forward, Kurono Yuji small forward. Suzuwa Shigeru shooting guard. Oji Okakase Yuki point guard. Shirkai Hyde, and with Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakase Yuki occupying the two starting spots. Two seniors who have fought for the team for 2 years will be eliminated. The third-year players who originally had the ability to start will naturally not be directly missed from the list, but will be dropped to the bench. But this has created a new problem. They're on the bench, but at least they're still the starting lineup. And in the substitute list, if there were no surprises like Sendou and Oji Oka, the two spots that originally had the opportunity to enter the starting position would be directly eliminated this time. You can imagine how disappointed the second-year players who were originally expected to play in this position, and even the third-year players are. In the stadium, after the announcement of the starting lineup, it was very quiet at this time. Then, with the substitute list, one by one, the people who were called didn't dare to celebrate, and the people who were not called lowered their heads nervously. After 1, 2, and 3 years, there are many players who have not been able to compete in the main competition, but it is certain that they have worked very hard to persist until here. But the efforts did not bear fruit. Sendou Mitsuki. This is the first time I have experienced such a scene. To be honest, I was so depressed that I dare not breathe. Soon, it was the last two positions. Coach Kitagura Masa took over the presentation from assistant coach Nakashiba. But before that, he took a deep breath. You have really worked hard in the 2 years up to now. Although we are not a strong team at the national level, we are also a team in Ibaraki that aims to impact the national level. For this goal, strict training, coupled with fierce competition for the first selection, you must have experienced enough of the hardship and unwillingness. But you did not lose heart and followed me until the end. Speaking of this, Kitagawara Masa bowed to the third-year players. You must continue to be my pride in the future. Beside Oji Okakase Yuki, a third-year senior who was not very conspicuous had such a moving expression that he dared not look at him for too long, but his sobbing words still fell into his ears bit by bit. I've made up my mind, even if I'm not selected as a regular. I won't regret it, but I'm still unwilling to accept it. Finally, with the words of Coach Kitagawara Masa, the only 2 remaining regular spots were settled, and at the same time, the players who failed to make further progress were also confirmed. Everyone looked at each other subconsciously, and at this moment, they confirmed that everyone had a feeling of hesitation. This is normal. For the second-year players, most of their junior high school career has passed. And the third year, failure. It means that their summer is over. Sendou, what's that expression on your face? Besides Sendou Mitsuki, in the previous game, the third-year senior Ejima Tsuyoshi on Sendou's side was unexpectedly not selected, but he patted Sendou Mitsuki on the shoulder in return. Don't be so serious. I don't have any regrets. Especially at the very end, I was able to receive the best pass as a player, worthy of being a super rookie. Even the pass is so scary. Facing the third-year player who is the main force, I also scored 10 points. Really, no regrets. I really didn't lie. Don't be so serious. Sendou, I tried my best. I have never skipped training. Every time I watch everyone play outside the court, I also study hard. It's just, am I still lacking some motivation? It's over. It's so fast. It's only June. If I can work a little harder, exercise more, run more, master at least one more skill, and perform better in the game just now. Can I make the starting list and play basketball for a while longer? Huh. On the other side, facing the eyes of Adashima Tsuyoshi, Sendou Mitsuki couldn't say a word of comfort for a while. This moment, he could truly feel the difference in his desire for basketball compared to others, and also felt his insignificance in front of these players who were far less powerful than him. Take us to the whole country. Sendou, try to let me watch more games, Okayama. I'll leave it to you. Snap finally. On this first day for himself in the true sense, Sendou Mitsuki held the basketball handed over by Tsuyoshi Ijima in his hand, and felt that after coming here, he had gained growth that was different from strength. And he felt that he would continue to grow. Soon, the depressing atmosphere slowly dissipated amid the active teasing of the unselected players. Next, it was the change of New Jersey numbers. However, to Sendou Mitsuki's surprise, he got the number 5 jersey, which was second only to the captain's number 4. And then he looked at the third-year main force. The coach patted him on the shoulder after noticing his action. You have the ability to deserve this number. Take it with dignity. Next, you just need to lead everyone with your performance on the court. Yes, Chapter 027. That guy once blocked 12 shots in a single quarter. How should I know? He was targeting us. In the last half-month before the start of the preliminaries, Okayama confirmed the roster and then began intensive preparations. All members of Okayama, from top to bottom, knew that this was the most promising year. Even Sendou Mitsuki himself thought so. The main reason was, Teak didn't have Generation of Miracles yet, and even if the Miracles entered school next year, a group of first-year kids probably couldn't beat me, who had already been brushing for a year by then. Plus Oji Oka Kasa, Yuki Oji Oka. Seeing that he has such strength starting from the first year of junior high school, he shouldn't be too weak in the future. According to the system's Kuroko basketball parallel world theory, Sendou hopes that Oji Oka Kasa Yuki in this world will be at the double-digit level in the future. Of course, even so, he will probably face huge challenges in the third year, but at least now, Sendou Mitsuki is confident that he can win even against the giant Teak. In a blink of an eye, the day of the Ibaraki preliminaries. The Okayama Junior High School basketball team, the tense summer leading to the whole country, has begun. When Coach Kitagawa Masa led the players into the Ibaraki First Gymnasium, a noisy sound suddenly came from the player tunnel, causing Sendou Mitsuki to tremble slightly, as if he had been electrocuted. On the side, even the calm Agakasa, Yuki, was a little excited. Even though it was only a junior high school level competition, because junior high schools do not have as many competitions as high schools, there's only one all-junior high school competition throughout the year, so all the attention is focused here, and the heat is not low. At least looking through the player tunnel, the audience seats in the gymnasium were very full at the opening of the preliminaries today. At the same time, in the center of the gymnasium, most of the teams participating in the preliminaries in the Ibaraki division have already appeared. There are many teams, when Sendou was in school, let alone participating in a basketball game of this level. Even watching a game live and experiencing such a warm audience atmosphere in person had never happened. At this time, Sendou was at the front of the Okayama team. At the front was the team leader, Coach Kitagawa Masa. Everyone has not yet entered the venue and is still in the player tunnel because, as usual, before entering the stadium, Okayama will form a circle under the leadership of the coach and captain to encourage. First, take down the number 1 seed in Ibaraki. Then, don't forget our goal this year, with Kitagawa Masahiro and Captain Suzuha Shigeru taking the lead and reaching out all the regular players in this game, including Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakasa Yuki, all reached out and gathered together. Suzuha Shigeru shouted loudly. Our goal is... Everyone's voices followed. National champion. National champion. This team of aggressive Okayama players, all wearing the iconic black uniforms, with a vision and belief in victory, followed and stepped out of the player tunnel. When the first ray of incandescent light in the stadium fell into Sendou Mitsuki's eyes, a moment of trance. In the ears, the noisy sound of falling balls, the friction between the shoes and the court, and the cheers from the cheering groups of each team. Various enthusiastic cheers came more clearly than before. At this time, the audience stands, led by Asakawa Yui, who had heard of Sendou Mitsuki before but had only seen the full picture today, came into his sight. And the long-legged cheerleaders in his imagination. It was completely different. Even though Sendou Mitsuki had been called the devil recently, he was a little speechless in front of the menacing Black Sea. Bang! Roar! Bang! Roar! Bang! Roar! Under the command of Asakawa Yui in the front row, the Okayama cheering group pulled up the banner of Mountains Stop and Rivers Go, and their hands and mouths cooperated tacitly, beating and roaring rhythmically. However, while the sense of oppression was full, it was also quite restrained. It only controlled everyone for a few dozen seconds when the Okayama players appeared on the stage. As for Okayama, based on past records, it is naturally a small shrimp in the whole country. But in Ibaraki, it is definitely the best. What's more, Okayama is full of confidence this year. In order to get used to each other as soon as possible, it has arranged many foreign games before the qualifiers. Therefore, the current situation of Okayama has already spread among the Ibaraki teams. Although the qualifiers have not started yet, Okayama has become the most watched team. Hey, look, Okayama Junior High School. The silver-haired guy is the Demon King, Sendou Mitsuki. As expected, he looks very scary, and his expression is also a bit gloomy. Is it possible that you spoke too loudly and he heard you? Huh, is it them? The reason why Okayama has no defeats in foreign games this year is that the first-year students Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakasuyuki were previously on the Ibaraki chapter of the weekly basketball warm-up. That guy is a Demon King who has 12 blocks in a single quarter, and his rebounds are even more dynamic 20-30. Really? How did you know? How should I know? The player who finally revealed the details of the game had a dark face. We're the ones who were blocked 12 times in a single quarter. Anyway, that devil is so strong. This year, Okayama will definitely make it to the national level, and will definitely make a difference in the country. Indeed, just now I heard them talking about the national champion. Looks very confident. Chapter 028. I will definitely defend him to single digits, and as for rebounds, I'll let him get 5. That'll be a lot. The opening of the Ibaraki regional preliminaries went very quickly. After the players' representatives took the oath, took a group photo, and the organizer spoke, the whole process was completed in less than an hour. Next, it was the official game. According to the schedule that had been obtained before the opening, the first match of Okayama Junior High School was against a junior high school called Kolo. This junior high school's past performance in Ibaraki City was only mediocre. But this year, it seemed a little different. At the same time, the team of Kolo Junior High School, damn it, a 180-centimeter short center and a freshman? Why is he on weekly basketball? At 12 blocks. I can play against a team like Tokaitai. A tall, flat-headed brother said with a look of indignation on his face. This year, Jin Zong Changjing, who was promoted to the 3rd grade, reached a height of 186 centimeters. At the same time, compared with other junior high school players whose heights had skyrocketed, his athletic ability was not greatly affected. Therefore, in the new school year, he played a very explosive performance in the history of the Kuroko basketball team. He used his strength to tell everyone in Kuroko Junior High School the dream of entering the national team this year. But just when he thought that his performance would definitely become famous in Ibaraki, and maybe his name would appear in the weekly basketball, which is limited coverage of Ibaraki every year. Quietly, in Ibaraki, the focus of a new school year slowly became a first-year center from Okayama. Even the weekly basketball that he had been thinking about appeared in the other party's name, and he noticed that he was only mentioned in a very small circle at the opening ceremony just now. What made him most oppressed was that when he was mentioned, there was only one sentence. The center of Kuroko Junior High School seemed to be quite capable. This made him feel very frustrated. The silver-haired devil of Okayama. Tis, how arrogant. With that height and that thin body, How could he be as strong as they say? Before the first round, Pa, as the captain, Jin Zong changing clapped his hands vigorously. When everyone looked at him, he smiled confidently and said loudly, "The opponent is Okayama. Compared to us, Korra, they were once a famous team in Ibaraki, but this year, we must win." As he said, he pointed in the direction of Okayama. Did you see it? That number 5 is the new starting center of Okayama. He is not as tall as me, not as strong as me, not as experienced as me. Jin Zong changing has a slender figure, and judging from the muscle lines of his arms, the traces of training are also quite eye-catching. As he spoke, the players of Korra Junior High School silently compared in their hearts. Found that it was absolutely correct. In front of his captain, even at such a long distance, he could easily see that Sendou Mitsuki was a whole circle smaller than his captain. His captain, there was no way he could lose to the so-called silver-haired devil. And Okayama's number 6, Oji Okakasuyuki, is also a freshman. What conclusion can be drawn from this? That is, Okayama Junior High School is so strong on the outside that it has no strong players on the inside and can only be a freshman. The players of Gwangla Junior High School all had their eyes brightened. Right? That's right. At the same time, the coach of Gwangla Junior High School, seeing that Jin Zong changing had mobilized everyone's momentum, immediately stood up, because he knew very well that what Jin Zong changing said seemed to be fine at first glance. But if you think about it carefully, there are many problems, so he wanted to take advantage of this momentum and let the players ignore those details and go straight to the court and give it a try. After you go on the court, you must concentrate and don't think about other things. No matter who the opponent is, we just need to play our own game. Remember, the results of your efforts must be proportional to your efforts. Yes, go on. This year, let everyone see Gwangla's strength. The starting players of Gwangla Middle School were full of momentum under the leadership of Jin Zong changing. After changing into jerseys, everyone's face was full of confidence. But before going on the court, the coach of Gwangla Middle School still called Jin Zong changing. Jin Zong. However, he didn't even have time to say it. "Coach, I know what you're going to say. Don't worry. Although the rumors are a bit outrageous, you can also get some useful information from them, because no matter how much you brag, no one mentions his score, which shows that he is not a scorer at all. In this game, under my defense, I will definitely defend him to single digits. As for rebounds, Jin Zong, changing, raised one hand and slowly opened it. Let him pick up 5 rebounds. Coach Gwangla was very upset. On the one hand, it was because his captain's strength had skyrocketed and his confidence in being the best had also skyrocketed. On the other hand, the sound was too loud. People from Okayama next door all looked over. Sendou, that guy said he would only let you grab 5 rebounds. Don't talk nonsense. He clearly said that we have to rely on picking up Sendou. Before that, you may not have heard clearly, he also said that he would prevent you from scoring in the single digits. Listening to the teasing of the seniors, Sendou Mitsuki couldn't help but smile. Oh, defending in the single digits, plus only picking up 5 rebounds. Okay, that's the data, although Sendou didn't add a subject to his words. Everyone understood that single-digit scores and 5 rebounds couldn't be Sendou's. It was his opponent, and Sendou Mitsuki, before going on the court, glanced at the cheering stand on the Okayama side. There, the players who didn't make the official list are cheering there. Chapter 029, 1 offensive and defensive round, 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 block. Please give me your advice. Players come on the court. Beep. The referee tossed the ball up, and the centers of both teams. No, to be precise, it was the power forward Kurono Yuji from Okayama, and the jump ball of Kinzo, changing from Kuroko Junior High School. In response, Sendou Mitsuki could only tell the coach that jumping high in a jump ball is not as good as static reach. But in fact, Sendou is still alone in terms of jump ball. At this time, in the center circle, Kurono Yuji and Kinzo, changing, jumped up, and it can be clearly seen that they are about the same in standing reach. But Kinzo changing is obviously better in jumping. Then, Kinzo changing touched the basketball first and pointed the basketball to the backcourt with his fingertips. At the first moment, Kinzo changing, who won the jump ball, glanced at Sendou Mitsuki on the opposite side, who didn't even dare to jump with him. Sendou Mitsuki ignored him and went back to defense. Kuroko Junior High School's offense. The first move was the pick-and-roll tactic, which is also the most common tactic in junior high school basketball now. After all, it is simple to understand and easy to use. To be honest, Jin Zong Changjing's pick-and-roll was of good quality, but the shooting guard of Guangla Middle School lacked offensive ability and was constantly entangled by OG Okakasuyuki and had no chance to shoot with the pick-and-roll. After the pick-and-roll, Jin Zong Changjing went straight down, and the shooting guard made a high pass, and Shuntang Mitsuki immediately followed. Bang! Jin Zong Changjing's back-to-back play went smoothly. He quickly advanced to a very deep position. Jin Zong Changjing. Humph! I knew it. It's just a name. However, just a moment later, bang! Jin Zong Changjing turned around and confidently dunked the ball, but was cut off by a flash of silver. It was Shuntang Mitsuki, who was just behind Jin Zong Changjing, who suddenly jumped out from his side. The ball, accompanied by a loud bang. The violent blocking swing of his arm, like a smash in a volleyball game, fanned the ball far away, even flying all the way to the audience stands, and then slammed into the hands of Okayama's unselected player, Tsuyoshi Ejima. Tsuyoshi Ejima. Huh. In an instant, Tsuyoshi Ejima felt the strong force and rotation in his hand and was stunned. On the court, the expressions on the faces of the players of Guangla Junior High School froze, and Jin Zong Changjing was even more confused and couldn't recover. His mind was full of, what just happened? And Tsuyoshi Ejima in the audience stands was thinking, on the day the list was announced, he, as a senior, handed the ball to Shuntang with a sense of ceremony, but it was returned so quickly in such an unusual form. Hey, bang, roar, bang, roar. Tsuyoshi Ejima stood up, threw the ball back to the court, and took the lead in hitting the cheering roar of Okayama, which soon led to all the people in the Okayama cheering group. In a blink of an eye, the shaking sound became one. What? What an outrageous block. That number 5, Okayama's super genius, Sendou Mitsuki. So it's him. After a moment of silence, the audience suddenly became agitated. The stadium was so big that the first round would not only be held in Okayama. The situation here quickly focused the audience's attention. Of course, for the audience who missed the scene just now. Now they can only see Jin Zong Changjing's gloomy expression. Don't mind Captain Jin Zong. Maybe he can just jump a little bit. Just pay more attention to this later. Hearing his teammates' comfort and thinking of his pre-match heroic words, Jin Zong Changjing, who was embarrassed, gritted his teeth and said, "Damn freshman, wait and see." In Okayama's offense, point guard Shirkai Hyde crossed half-court with the ball, and just as he came to the three-point line, he directly signaled his teammates to pull away and wait for Sendou Mitsuki to fall into the low post. It's obvious. Because of Jin Zong Changjing's words, Okayama was also happy to see Sendou Mitsuki and the opponent in the penalty area 1v1. After all, it's no reason for outsiders not to enjoy what they have suffered. Sendou Mitsuki received the ball and played against Jin Zong Changjing with his back to the basket. After seeing Sendou's ability just now, Jin Zong Changjing immediately used his right hand to press against Sendou Mitsuki's back, bent his legs, and lowered his center of gravity to increase his strength. Facing the opponent's low post back to the basket singles, Jin Zong Changjing did not take it lightly, but he was not scared at all. But Kim Jang Chongyoung's preparation was completely unnecessary. Shuntang, it's the same old trick. Back to the basket, try to push turning, and rubbing with the advantage of active force, plus a low step, he can move forward a little bit. Anyway, for him, as long as he can dawdle into the restricted area, it is a success then. Kim Jang Chongyoung. This is... what move? Shuntang Mitsuki self-euphemistically calls himself no fixed pattern in the restricted area. Facing Jin Jang Chongyoung's defense, he just needs to play a handsome role now. Hit rate? What is that? As long as he can throw the ball over the opponent's block and throw it onto the backboard or the basket, it is a success. After the low step, he leans over and lays up. In the air, twist and pull the hook. He doesn't jump high, but his movements are fast. Bang! The moment the ball hits the board, Shantang Mitsuki's snail attack suddenly turns into lightning. Before Jin Zong changing could react at all, he broke through the opponent's defense at high speed, giving the opponent a very violent penalty zone confrontation. After a muffled sound, Shantang Wangyue had already flashed from Jin Zong changing's sight. At this moment, Jin Zong changing staggered and was stunned. Just now, what kind of speed and explosive power was that? Turning back, at this time, Shantang had already jumped up, and his silver hair danced wildly in the air with his posture. The momentary cold expression was completely revealed when his bangs were flipped in front of his eyebrows. That height, and he ran straight to the ball, as if he was going to dunk directly. Jin Zong changing scalp was numb. Boom! Shantang Wangyue made a beautiful two-handed dunk, ended this round of offense. After scoring the goal, Shantang turned around and raised a finger to Jin Zong changing. One offensive and defensive round, 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 block. Please give me more advice, Chapter 030. As expected. That's right, the first-year student at Okayama Junior High School, the silver-haired devil, in the offense of Guangla Junior High School. Because of the presence of Oji Okakasuyuki, their outside shooting guards could hardly make a difference in the positional battle and could only pass the ball to the point guard after a simple pick and roll. As for why it was the point guard, because the small forward, there was also the captain of Okayama, Suzuwa Shigeru. As for the point guard of Guangla, his shooting ability was quite good, and coupled with the upper middle level athletic ability of junior high school players, he had a certain strength. At this time, he received the ball at the left waist through off-ball offense, and with the help of the power forward's pick and roll, he delayed Shirkai Hyde's defense. But Shirkai Hyde knew very well, so he just pushed forward. If you want to break through. Anyway, I won't let you shoot. There was no way. The point guard of Guangla Junior High School could only break through the restricted area. Seeing this scene, Jin Zong changing hurriedly blocked the position, trying to involve the help defense of Shantang Mitsuki, but he did involve it at the first time, but when his own point guard jumped up to attack the basket. The action of Shantang Mitsuki behind him suddenly changed. Agility, strength, speed easily broke through Jin Zong changing's blocking position. Bang! Sendou Mitsuki, who flashed out from behind Jin Zong changing, stepped out with a heavy muffled sound the moment he jumped up and flew towards Guangla's point guard, igniting and soaring. Guangla's point guard. This point guard is capable. While the audience was dumbfounded by Sendou Mitsuki's blocking action, he had already jumped into the air and reacted very quickly. He quickly smashed the ball to the ground. Pop a ground pass to Jin Zong changing was given behind Sendou Mitsuki. Jin Zong changing was delighted after receiving the ball. Good opportunity. Not only did that guy jump up, but he also had his back to him, so he must not have time to defend. Jin Zong changing didn't say a word and started directly. Although it was not a frontal dunk, at least he had to take this opportunity to dunk on Sendou Mitsuki's head to wash away the humiliation he had just suffered. However, ting! A crisp sound of metal clashing, just as Jin Zong changing grabbed the ball in his hands and dunked it into the basket with both hands. A hand suddenly flashed out from the side and pressed the ball tightly. In Jin Zong changing's face, he was terrified. Sendou Mitsuki, who had jumped here again, completely suppressed him from above and forcibly pressed down the dunk that Jin Zong changing was determined to get. Bang! Jin Zong changing was blocked, and his steps were unstable. The moment he landed, he sat down on the ground with a stiff face. Woo! Oh my God! After being hit by Sendou Mitsuki's consecutive bouncing left and right punches in the penalty area, the Okayama cheering group, the bench, and the players on the field were all excited. The audience suddenly burst into a dense noise from the brief silence of being in a trance. The whole place was boiling with excitement. However, the continuous heavy punches of Shantang on the court had not even ended. The sound of the scene soon merged with the exclamations and the rhythmic roar of the Okayama cheering group. On the court, although Guangla Middle School was miserable in this round, they were lucky. The ball thrown by Shantang Mitsuki actually fell into the hands of Guangla Middle School's power forward. He subconsciously chose to shoot near the basket. But at the moment of his shooting action, boom, in a restricted area, with the blessing of the restricted area anesthesia room, Shantang Mitsuki directly launched a block from a distance visible to the naked eye. The height is terrible, at least while the jumping ability is used to shorten the distance. It also amazingly reaches the height of the wrist over the basket in the air. And the reaction, the acceleration of the start, is also exaggerated. It arrived almost at the same time as the power forward of Guangla Middle School threw the ball. At this moment, under the gaze of the audience, Shantang Guangyue's silver hair, under the incandescent light of the dome of the stadium, faced the light and flickered, and at the same time, the shadow was completely sent to Guangla Middle School's power forward, together with a psychological shadow. Then, bang! Two-handed volleyball blocking. Catch the ball in the air. Give it to you. The adrenaline surged instantly, making Shantang Guangyue's eyes red, and he shouted loudly, grabbing the opponent's shot from the air with both hands. As fierce as a robber. Wow. This ball made the scene explode again. At the same time, Shantang Guangyue's inertia from a distance slightly touched the opponent. But because it was a collision after a complete shot, the block was too clean and crisp, and the referee did not blow the whistle. At this point, all the audience once again stared at Shantang Guangyue knocking down a Guangla player. Sure enough, that's right. The image of Sendou Mitsuki grabbing the ball with both hands and looking down at his opponent, coupled with the messy silver hair and red eyes, immediately reminded many viewers who follow the Ibaraki Junior High School basketball scene of the most famous rumor about Okayama this year. Okayama Junior High School. First grade, Sendou Mitsuki, the silver-haired devil. Chapter 031. Can he pass the ball like this? I thought he was only good at rebounding and blocking shots. Sendou, pass the ball. Sendou, watch out behind you. On the bench, Okayama's teammates saw Lao Lu suddenly attacking from behind Sendou Mitsuki and hurriedly reminded him, while Kitagawaramasa, the coach, just laughed. This block was domineering, but Sendou was still a freshman after all. He was handsome, but this was the All-China qualifiers, so he couldn't be careless. The teammates' reminders were obviously a little late. The guard's hand was about to hit the basketball and counter-steal, but at this critical moment, Sendou Mitsuki suddenly trembled and suddenly passed the ball to Oji Okakase on the other side. And the latter has an excellent field of vision and immediately noticed Suzuha Shigeru, who was rushing to the front court with Kazuma in the lead. But he understood very well. Instead of passing the ball to that side right away, he passed the ball back to Sendou Mitsuki in front of all the spectators who were confused because Oji Okakase knew very well that when it comes to passing, Sendou, who has the quirk of not attacking unless passing the ball, is the strongest in the team. The audience? Question mark. Okayama's number 6. Why did he pass it back again? Didn't he notice the situation in the front court? Just as the audience was puzzled, they heard a pop sound. On the court, facing Oji Okakase return pass, Sendou Mitsuki put his fingers together to form a tiger claw. The fingertip magic hit hard. At that moment, Sendou did not turn his head to observe. He easily locked on the captain Suzuha, who was attacking in the front court with his peripheral vision and the position judgment of the residual vision when blocking the shot before. The ball suddenly flashed an orange light in the air, and a pass without looking at anyone accurately passed through 3/4 of the court and was delivered to Suzuha Shigeru in the front court. This pass was both freehand and outrageous. Although it was Suzuha Shigeru who scored the dunk, everyone's attention was focused on Sendou Mitsuki. Can you still pass the ball like this? Who knows? I thought he was only good at rebounding and blocking shots. The discussion at the scene, the focus has been on Sendou Mitsuki since the start of the game, and the Okayama support stand on the other side. Suzuha, Sendou, Suzuha, Sendou. The voice of support resounded throughout the stadium. The audience at the scene couldn't help but join in. Before that, Coach Kitagawaramasa, who was worried about Shantang Mitsuki, couldn't help but stand up and applaud for this goal. He still underestimated Shantae. Shantae Mitsuki, who just successfully grabbed the ball with both hands in the air, seemed wild, but in fact, as a person who had used the same old six sneak attack trick, he was probably the most strict in preventing this kind of steal. At the beginning of Guangla, Jin Zong Changing, who had made bold statements to teach Shantae Mitsuki some color, was in a very embarrassing situation. He was overturned by Shantae Mitsuki on the offensive end and ravaged by Shantae Mitsuki on the defensive end. Jin Zong Changing was very angry, but in front of Shantae Mitsuki, he was just helpless and furious. At 2 minutes and 35 seconds in the first quarter, Shantae Mitsuki received the ball in the low post and pupated again. This was the fourth time that Shantae Mitsuki had forced Jin Zong Changing in the low post, and the first 3 times were all scored. Senior Jin Zong, I'm going to attack again. Sendou Mitsuki leaned his back against Jin Zong Changing, leaning against the pupa while clapping his hands. Jin Zong Changing's face was livid. He lowered his body, lowered his center of gravity, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. He resisted Sendou Mitsuki's attack, as if he was facing a great enemy. Bang! For this ball, Sendou, who got the ball in the restricted area from the moment he landed, only clapped twice symbolically, and after the unfixed form hit the ball out, bang! With the blessing of the restricted area operating room, the violent friction between the shoes and the floor, the collision between the muscles, and the melee in the interior immediately stunned the audience on the scene. And it was already a LV2 restricted area operating room. Sendou's blocking action crushed Jin Zong Changing to the basket again and again, like the power of a king lifting a tripod, and pushed it to the best rebounding position with overwhelming force, adding the contrast in body shape. The visual impact in front of us can be seen. At this time, Jin Zong Changing, who was knocked out of position, had suffered several losses. This time, he was very smart. During a gap between Shantae Guanyue's efforts, he took a step back. Taking advantage of this space, he increased his speed and rushed forward. His height and arm span played a very important role at this time. At least in the final shot, Shantae was still alone. Although he got the rebound, his second attack was seriously disturbed. The ball turned around the basket twice and fell out again. Defense, but Jin Zong Changing seemed to have defended it. But everyone in Guangla was still holding their breath because in the previous round, Shantae Guanyue also had scenes of second attacks failing. There were also situations where they thought that the ball would never be missed, but Shantae Guanyue inexplicably missed it, which made people wonder if the silver-haired devil was deliberately rebounding. Everyone knew very well the rebound is the key. Therefore, Guangla was not relaxed from top to bottom, and the coach shouted loudly, "Protect the rebound." But as soon as the voice fell, Shantae Mitsuki grabbed the rebound and chose to directly push the ball to the basket in the air. Jin Zong Changing's bounce speed was not as strong as Shantae Mitsuki. After continuous bounces, facing Shantae's tip-in, not only did he fail to defend, but he was also hit once. 2+1, although the last one was not made. But Shantae Mitsuki 4 shots. No, it was 4 offensive rounds of countless shots, and he had already scored 8 points for Okayama. And Guangla, still 0, it's almost double digits. Jin Zong Sr. on the free throw line. Shantae Mitsuki, who missed the free throw, looked at Jin Zong Changing with a playful look. The latter gritted his teeth. In terms of oral ability, Shantae, who was influenced by his previous life, was definitely far superior to Jin Zong Changing. Chapter 032. What Shantae said about 1 star radiating in all directions perfectly suits his abilities. Okayama used Shantae Mitsuki to directly destroy the last line of defense of Guangla, which was also the strongest line of defense in the penalty area. The battle plan achieved good results, which made Guangla hurriedly request a timeout. Seeing this scene, the audience's discussion became noisy again. Guangla was called for a timeout just a few minutes after the start. You can see it from the scene. The gap is too big. Okayama basically just released the silver-haired Demon King, and Guangla couldn't resist it. How can it play later? Do you expect the other people in Okayama to be air? In fact, Coach Guangla did the right thing. This timeout is very necessary now. I just noticed that many players on the field of Guangla Middle School have a wrong expression. It is obvious that their mentality has been shaken. This year's Okayama seems a bit outrageous. Guangla Middle School is also quite strong, but it ran into Okayama in the first round. This is miserable. The timeout called by Guangla Middle School is on the one hand to let the players regain confidence, and on the other hand to formulate a strategy against Shantae Mitsuki. In the past few minutes, there is no doubt that the heavy hammer of Sendou Mitsuki at the beginning of the game in Okayama has seriously affected the team's desire to win. The coach of Guangla Middle School also spoke in a completely different tone than before the game, and glanced at Jin Zong, changing with emphasis. Don't underestimate him, just because he is a freshman. Be patient in tactics. Teamwork. Double team him on defense, and the outside players should take care of him. His hit rate is very low, and the core reason for his ability to score is rebounds. Once he messes around in the penalty area like he did just now, the outside players will be responsible for entanglement with him, and then the two inside players in the penalty area will rush to the rebound. Do you understand? The timeout is over. With the serve of Okayama Middle School, the game continues. Jin Zong Changjing's athletic ability, the value lies in defense, has now been torn apart by Sendou Mitsuki, so naturally it can't be left alone, which is why Coach Guangla made adjustments just now. No way. What? This? Double team Sendou Mitsuki? The effect was immediate. Well, the reverse side is effective immediately. Guangla's double team, of course, cannot be stared at by two people when Shantae is off the ball. Instead, after Shantae Mitsuki receives the ball, the nearest defensive player on the other side immediately approaches and double teams him. But in this case, the problem comes. Even if the double team is very cautious, but the open space still comes out snap. The characteristics of the fingertip magic destined Shantae Mitsuki's pass to be only a touch away. Guangla's double team, not to mention that it cannot be firmly double teamed without the ball from the beginning. Even if it can be done, the passing type of Shantae Mitsuki can't limit his pass. So, it was just a fleeting moment, and Shantae Mitsuki immediately found an opportunity. On the outside, point guard Shikai Hyde passed the ball. During the flight of the ball, the blessing of fingertip magic greatly enhanced Shantae's vision, prediction, and accuracy. He didn't even move his side at all, still facing the direction of the point guard. But his left hand immediately hit the ball passed by Shikai Hyde in the air. The ball bounced off the ground and passed beautifully through the gap between the two teams of Guangla. Suzuwa Shigeru received it again, and even the connection point was still comfortable enough that he didn't need to adjust the position at all. He secretly said in his heart that it was amazing and completed a slam dunk that was a bit luxurious for a junior high school student. This was his second dunk in this game. All of them were assisted by Shantae. Beautiful Shantae. So strong. Good pass, Shantae. Coach Kitagawa Haramasa, seeing Sendou Mitsuki's miraculous assists again, couldn't help but feel his scalp tingling. So fast, so accurate. And that vision ability. That's it. Sendou. Even his passing is so strange. Why doesn't he pass properly? Every time he passes, it's like a show of skill, only passing such a beautiful ball that can be scored at one touch, just as strange as Sendou's exaggerated athletic ability that he has always only shown in the restricted area. But it must be said that Sendou is undoubtedly top-notch in passing, not to mention his equally top-notch restricted area rebounds and blocks. What Sendou said is a star with 4 shots. Single, unique, but effective personal offense in the restricted area. Plus, rebounds, passing. Perfectly suited to his ability. In Guangla's offensive round, the point guard dribbled the ball and first retreated to the three-point line to increase his breakthrough space, while Jin Zong changing directly pulled to the three-point line to cover the top of the arc. This time the screen was very successful. Shantae switched to the point guard, bent down, lowered his center of gravity, and, at the same time, stretched out his hands to expand his defensive area. Guangla point guard. He's on it. With a rub, the Guangla point guard took a step forward with his right foot, pretending to break through from the right side of Shantae, and stopped suddenly. At the same time, he made a shooting motion with his hands. However, it was all in vain. It's not that Guangla's point guard skills are not good, but from the moment he started to feint, he was destined to think too much. Instead, this quick stop and pull back unexpectedly hit Shantang Guanyue's heart. As for the reason, of course, outside the penalty area, Shantang Guanyue is ordinary. Here, his defensive means are all experience, and the only thing he uses experience to deal with is the opponent's shooting. As long as he is not shot in the face by the opponent, the follow-up will be easy. If he is broken through, he will chase. Anyway, as long as he falls into the penalty area, he can rely on the penalty area anesthesia room to chase. But the opponent didn't know, and instead thought that Shantang's slowness was looking down on him. So the point guard of Guangla Middle School lowered his center of gravity, stepped on the accelerator, and gritted his teeth to rush into the penalty area from Shantang Mitsuki's left wing. As expected, Shantang Mitsuki, who only focused on the opponent's shooting, was easily pierced by the defense. Good shot, Shantang Mitsuki. Was it so easy to pass? But there is no one to help defend in Okayama. The strange atmosphere, the point guard of Guangla also noticed and felt inexplicably chilled in his heart. But he didn't have the opportunity to think too much at this time, and made a quick decision and jumped up. Be careful. Suddenly, the reminder of his teammates on the court sounded in his ears, and he instinctively sensed the danger. When he turned his head and looked at his peripheral vision, he found a figure flying behind him. It's too far. How is it possible? In the eyes of the Guangla Middle School players on the court, Shantang Guanyue, who was easily passed by his own point guard, had just moved away from the three-point line to the restricted area in such a short acceleration distance. When he arrived at the restricted area, another body was pulled away. But the next second, Shantang Guanyue stepped into the free throw line and took off on the spot with a ferocious look. The pupils of everyone in Guangla Middle School dilated, and they couldn't believe the scene in front of them. Chapter 033. With this system alone, Okayama will be able to crush the qualifiers this year. Shantang Guanyue's free throw line chase was outrageous. At that moment, everyone at the scene seemed to see a crow with a silver crown on its head. Then, the crow spread its wings. Boom! It violently bit the ball in front of it and grabbed it from Guangla's point guard's hands. This block, although it started from the extreme distance of the free throw line, the final effect, whether it was the distance consumed by the bounce during the flight, the resulting block height, the impact of the timing, with the blessing of the penalty zone anesthesia room, it was just right. Guangla's point guard faced the basket and made a layup. He only had time to see the ferocious smile of Shantang Guanyue's face when the incandescent light in the dome hit him in the vibration. Then, the ball disappeared from his sight. Return to defense. Return to defense quickly. Snap. 2 consecutive hitting sounds came in succession. The first one was lighter but longer, and the second one was heavier and shorter. It was just that Shantang once again took the initiative to pass the ball to Oji Okagawayuki, and the latter took the initiative to pass the ball back, triggering the tacit cooperation of the fingertip magic. Whoosh! The final passing line was a long pass from Shantang Mitsuki to the front court, but this time, Guangla Middle School learned its lesson and returned to defense quickly, not giving Okayama a chance to make a quick counterattack. Then the offense and defense fell into a positional battle. Then, Guangla's defense hesitated. In the end, double team or not double team, Shantang Mitsuki's unique touch pass had punished them in the last round. But if there was no double team, Shantang Mitsuki's attack in the restricted area, supported by such rebounding ability, could be said to be able to get whatever he wanted. In such hesitation, Okayama point guard Shirkai Hyde took a sneak attack and long shot. Unfortunately, it was almost in. Rebound. Protect the rebound. Coach Guangla shouted loudly on the sidelines. At the same time, one of the Guangla players on the outside line suddenly split a hand and rushed into the restricted area, using his body to block Shantang Guanyue, who wanted to rush the rebound. But, let alone the outside line, setters like Jin Zong, Changing couldn't stop Shantang. In addition, Shantang was hungry for rebounds, which was a pure free point. The small forward who rushed over to stop Shantang suddenly caught a glimpse of the murderous intent in the opponent's eyes that would not stop until the rebound was taken. Instantly, there was a sense of déjà vu, that I was entangled with a volcano that was about to erupt. Boom. In fact, it was true. Shantang tore through the small forward's position entanglement in the blink of an eye. A hole. Stop him. The coach of Guangla Middle School saw that the entanglement with Shantang Guangyue was basically ineffective and broke in an instant. He shouted anxiously. At the same time, the ball was falling from the sky. The position is very biased towards Jin Zong Changjing, and there is a distance from Shantang, and there is a power forward in between. But, smash! Shantang Guangyue jumped vertically with a terrifying speed, just like a small steel cannon, with a person in between. Because he had to dodge the opponent's power forward, the direction of Shantang's jump was actually quite different from the point where the ball landed. But, snap! He couldn't catch the ball, but Shantang directly leaned forward in the air, with a faster speed and height, stretched out his hand, and used his fingertips to point the ball out to the outside line first. Because the prerequisite for fingertip magic is to pass the ball to teammates quickly at the touch of a button, this aerial pass did not trigger the entry effect of fingertip magic. On the perimeter, although Shuzo Shigeru grabbed the ball, the teammate hit bonus item did not take effect. Therefore, on the Guangla bench, everyone first held their heads in their hands, and then felt relieved and relieved. Shuzo Shigeru's long shot was helplessly missed. Damn, but it doesn't matter. At this time, Shantang's position was already in the deepest position of the penalty area. Although he was surrounded by two people under the basket, the moment the ball hit the basket and bounced, Shantang Mitsuki was like a raging wildfire, a counter card, violently grabbing the position, causing Jin Zong Changjing to stagger back a step. Snap! Successfully grabbed the offensive rebound. If the first pass is ineffective, then try the second time, and it must have a bonus effect. After getting the rebound, Shantang looked around and found Okayama Miracle, who was very sensitive to Shantang's two steps towards him. So after receiving the ball, he did not choose to 1v1 himself, but passed it back like before. Although not as good as Shantang's fingertip magic, Okayama Miracle passing ability is also quite good. At least considering Shantang's fast passing characteristics, the ball landed right in front of his chest. The next second, there was a snap. The ball that was close to Shantang suddenly appeared in Shirkao Hyde's hands like a magic trick. Shirkao Hyde was not surprised. During the joint training during this period, he was already quite familiar with this wonderful feeling of receiving the ball. Wide open space. Shirkao Hyde shot with a knife. Without the slightest hesitation, a three-point shot was taken with a hit buff attached. A three-pointer hit. Wow. How did it pass? This pass was so fast, and the route was so hidden that many viewers who didn't understand it felt quite magical. Amid the hustle and bustle, Shantang Mitsuki turned back to defend and clapped his hands with Shirkao Hyde, who was waiting there on purpose, and Okayama Miracle, who was passing by on the other side. Good pass, Oji. You too. This pass was really beautiful, and the receiving feeling was as comfortable as ever. So Shirkai Hidia couldn't help but exclaim, "You pass better than me," after scoring. Coach Kitagawara Masa couldn't help but excitedly make a fist pump. 1-star radiates. The 1-star of Shantang is undoubtedly qualified and can't be more qualified. Coupled with the outside shooting, with this system alone, Okayama can level the qualifiers this year. Chapter 034. Crazy. Big news. Maybe even more explosive than Teak in Tokyo. With the operating room in the restricted area, Sendou Mitsuki showed a breathtaking rebounding ability. During Okayama's attack, Shirkai Hyde broke through and passed the ball to Shuzo Shigeru, who cut in from the weak side. The latter's attack was interfered by the long arms of Jin Zong Changjing, who assisted in defense, and the attack missed. Almost at the same time, Guangla's power forward, like crazy, desperately stuck to Sendou, desperately blocking the opponent's lower body, not allowing him to get a favorable rebounding position. Sendou Mitsuki did not indulge him. He elbowed him and made way for him, causing the latter to stagger and almost fall. He grabbed the rebound wildly and wreaked havoc in Guangla's restricted area again. I really am. Off the court, Guangla's coach on the bench covered his face again. The next second, Sendou Mitsuki, who grabbed the rebound, saw Oji Okakase in the bottom corner. A simple pass was made by the latter with a fake move of passing back, which made Guangla's defensive players nervous. The defensive move that was originally about to rush to Oji Okakase paused. In the final analysis, it was the first few rounds after Oji Okakase passed the ball back. Sendou Mitsuki's second pass. The effect was too scary. Outside the three-point line, Oji Okakase took this opportunity to easily create an open space and hit a three-pointer. With Sendou Mitsuki's occasional assists, Okayama's shooting was a bit iron at the beginning, but later it became more and more accurate, and the more it shot, the more it shot. The passing effect of the fingertip magic naturally played a part, but the most important thing was the confidence brought by Sendou's rebounding ability. Even if the shot didn't go in, everyone kept shooting without any fear. After all, Sendou can always grab the rebound over the opponent's head. Soon, time came to the middle of the second quarter. With a Kinzo changing in his left hand and a Guangla power forward whose name he didn't know in his right hand, Sendou Mitsuki immediately got rid of the two and jumped up. Under the double confrontation, his jumping height could not be unaffected, but his sense of smell for the rebound and the response speed of his reflex nerves still allowed him to grab the offensive rebound. Damn it, Senior Kinzo! At this moment, the entire Guangla bench was filled with sighs. Even though Sendou Mitsuki didn't score much himself, the offensive rebounds he grabbed made everyone in Guangla feel that it would be better for him to score by himself. Okayama's outside shots were wild, and the score difference was pulled faster than when Sendou Mitsuki attacked by himself before. On the court, Sendou Mitsuki once again passed the ball with the fingertip magic to Kuroko Yuji. As the former starting center of Okayama and the current power forward of Okayama, an inside player, he got a lot of shooting opportunities at the edge of the penalty area. Of course, the hit rate was worrying at the beginning, but swish. When receiving the pass from Sendou, I always feel something is different. For example, this time, Kuroko Yuji hit it steadily. Sendou Mitsuki, so scary. With almost no possession of the ball, his style of play is probably the most dominant I can imagine. I can't even imagine it in my dreams. This is a game that a junior high school student can play. Yeah, unbelievable. A 180-centimeter center can fly around in the penalty area like this, and that magical pass, it feels like his assists are possible anytime, anywhere in Okayama. At the scene, in the stands, the audience was surprised that such a game appeared in the first round, and at the same time surprised at the unique dominance of Okayama, or Sendou Mitsuki this year. Second quarter, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. With a block by Shantang, Oji Okakase made a quick counterattack, and the score was widened to the current largest score difference of 37 points. You know, this is not even halftime yet. Shantang's crazy rebounds and blocks, plus the assists that fed the Okayama team's touch, this wave of madness is really unstoppable, especially Oji Okakase, who shot so well that even his calm expression seemed a little bit stunned. Guangla requested a timeout again. So far, Shanting Mitsuki has grabbed 20 rebounds and scored 12 points. His rebounds are impeccable, but in terms of scoring, due to the overcrowding in the penalty area, Shanting Mitsuki didn't show too much of the unfixed method. But the number of assists is rising. So far, Shanting Mitsuki has completed 12 assists, totaling 12 points, 20 rebounds, 12 assists, and 7 blocks, which are comprehensive and outrageous data. Sidelines. Compared to the popular qualifying area like Tokyo, the number of reporters following the first match in Ibaraki was not large, but it was not absent. At this time, several reporters were excitedly taking pictures. Crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Big news. Maybe even more explosive than Teak in Tokyo. It turned out to be a first-year student. Amazing. Halftime, just halftime, if this data is played for the whole game. However, several reporters thought that if Sendou Mitsuki played for the whole game, The whole data would be even more explosive, but soon it was somewhat unrealized as Sendou Mitsuki rested in the second half. But there was nothing they could do about it. Although some actions under the blessing of the entry obviously had other considerations for physical fitness, Sendou physical fitness was actually only 65 points, which was just barely passing. No matter what, he could not sustain the whole game like a little Superman. Sendou, who was excited in the first game, also realized that perhaps for him now, physical fitness might be more important. Shan Tang Guanyu, if you get the one-day customized training plan later, put all the attributes in a physical fitness first. Otherwise, no matter how strong you are, if you can't stay on the field, it's all in vain. Chapter 035. Shan Tang comes on the court again and takes away the opponent with an immediate effect. Second half. Guanla still did not change the starting lineup. They wanted to catch up during the absence of Sendou Mitsuki, so they chose the main force of the dead grass. Jin Zong, changing, even smiled on his depressed and irritable face after seeing that the silver-haired Devil King was gone on the other side. However, the reality was not at all what they wanted. Although Sendou Mitsuki left the court, the next person who quietly took over the power of the Devil King was Oji Okakasa, who was also a super rookie in Okayama. On the defensive end, Oji Okakasa naturally couldn't compare with Sendou, but in terms of offense, Oji Okakasa told everyone in Guanla Middle School what omnipotence is. In the third quarter, after the other people's offense fluctuated at the beginning, Oji Okakasa was shooting left and right and making wonderful passes for most of the subsequent half of the quarter, making everyone in Guanla Middle School look dazed. How is it possible? Sendou Mitsuki is fine, but what about Okayama's number 6? At the end of the third quarter, the score didn't increase too much, but the key point is that it didn't decrease at all, which made Okayama even more imposing. Even Shantang, who felt that he had rested for most of the quarter and recovered his physical strength during the halftime break in the second quarter, wanted to play in the middle of the third quarter, but was held down by the coach. At the end of the third quarter, the score difference reached 50 points. This result made the Okayama cheering group and the basketball team members of the scene very excited. Guanla is not weak this year, but after the starter player gave up a Shantang, the opponent was still crushed by Okayama. If you count it, the entire third quarter, under the leadership of Oji Okakasa, also created a score difference of at least 10 points. The fourth quarter, Okayama started with a full substitute lineup. Then, the gap between the two sides was soon exposed. Even though Guanla's Jin Zong changing and others fought for 3 quarters and were far behind Okayama's substitutes in physical strength, they still fought back fiercely for the first time. Okayama's substitute point guard is not good at organization. At least in the eyes of Shantang, he is not as good as Oji, the shooting guard, and his touch has not been fed by his fingertip magic. In half a quarter, the score was caught up by Guanla to 30, and it seemed that there was still no trend of stopping. Shantang, it's your turn, Coach Kitagawara Masa said, and at the same time, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. In addition to Shantang and Oji, if it weren't for them, Okayama would still be in the pain period this year. The substitute players are particularly obvious. However, I can't blame them too much. It's not that they didn't work hard, but the gap in talent is too big. Shantang Mitsuki and other 5 starters, after they played again, the effect was immediate. According to the coach's instructions, Sendou and Ogioka played pick and roll. Facing Ogioka Kasuyuki, who was good at both breakthroughs and shots in the third quarter, Guanla didn't dare to go around the pick and roll and could only force the ball. As expected, hanging on Sendou Mitsuki, Ogioka Kasuyuki broke through, and Jin Zong changing had no choice but to help Ogioka. At the same time, Sendou Mitsuki came down, which immediately attracted the power forward to help defend, delaying Sendou Mitsuki's action. Just then, Ogioka Kasuyuki's pass came. For a while, Guanla's power forward was waiting in front. Jin Zong, changing, turned his head. The small forward also waited for an opportunity to move. Sure enough, compared to Ogioka Kasuyuki, their hatred for Sendou Mitsuki was naked. As long as Sendou Mitsuki dared to rush up, he would be attacked by 3 people immediately. But Sendou Mitsuki met Ogioka Kasuyuki's pass. without even looking at it. A no-look pass. Well, to be more precise, he watched Shuzo Nijimura, who was put away by the small forward of Guangla, and made a fake pass to deceive the small forward of Guangla. At the same time, he also deceived the attention of most people in Guangla Middle School. The next second, snap, the magic of fingertips, but the ball was passed from behind to behind. Shirkai Shu outside the three-point line. Shirkai Shu made a three-pointer, and he accepted the assist of Sendou Mitsuki with a smile. This immediate counterattack made Oji Okayama on the other side shake his head helplessly. To be honest, with his vision and ability to read the game, he did predict the possible fake pass of Sendou, but later, he thought Sendou would pass the ball back. But he didn't expect, beyond his vision, Sendou could actually find a position like Shirkai Sr., and he had to admit that it was probably the best offensive choice on the court just now. Next, with the pick and roll of Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okayama as the core. Oji Oka is responsible for the breakthrough. Sun Tang is responsible for the fingertip magic to receive and pass the ball twice. For a while, Guangla's defense was dismembered into pieces, but Guangla did not sit still. The reason why they were distracted was the unexpected pass from those two guys. Then, they chose to let go of Kuroko Yuji, who had the worst shooting. Suddenly, the more concentrated defense line was stable at the beginning. Then Kuroko Yuji, as the center, received the pass from Oji Okayama, and his shooting felt really fluctuated. But Sun Tang Kazuki can grab the rebound. After catching it, he cooperated with Oji Oka to hit the fingertip magic again. Kuroko Yuji hit it. Oji Okayama looked very strange, because Kurono's hit rate after receiving his pass was obviously lower than that of Sun Tang's pass, and he had actually verified it in the third quarter. Otherwise, he would not have used his personal ability to attack like that in the third quarter. It was because everyone's shooting percentage dropped after Sun Tang left the court. Next, in 3 consecutive rounds, Kuroko Yuji made 3 of 5 shots, and in the first 2 rounds, he scored directly after Sun Tang's fingertip magic. In the last round, Sun Tang grabbed 2 offensive rebounds in a row, and then he fed Kuroko Yuji to score. This was a big blow to Guangla Middle School. Being rebounded, and there was nothing to do. Chapter 036. The courage to raise the white flag and a stronger heart. Kuroko Junior High School really helped a lot. Yeah, if they hadn't given up until the end of the fourth quarter, Sendou Mitsuki probably wouldn't have played again until the end of the game. Then there wouldn't be such data. 16 points, 29 rebounds, 18 assists, 10 blocks. Quadruple double. And it took less than 3 quarters. The reporters of various basketball magazines on the sidelines have been silently counting the opponent's data since Sendou Mitsuki came on the court, until the audience, from the shocking cheers to the silence when Sendou Mitsuki was finally replaced, did not dare to speak loudly, and several reporters quietly discussed. That cautious voice. It seemed that they were afraid that the players of Kuroko Junior High School on the court would hear it and touch their misery. But, thinking of Sendou Mitsuki's data, several people couldn't help but whisper in surprise. Mainly, this data is really unique in history in Ibaraki. Others are fine, but a center, 18 assists? How can it be something a center can do? I guess no one would believe it, even if it was published in a journal. No, I have to go to the technical desk later and take a picture of the statistics. Very soon. Beep. The whistle for the end of the game sounded. Okayama Junior High School versus Kuroko Junior High School. From the fourth quarter, when the score was once recovered to 30 points, to the later period when Okayama's starting lineup returned, the score collapsed again, and the score difference fell back to 55 points. The fire of hope only flickered for a moment for Kuroko Junior High School. Then, the silver-haired devil puffed up his cheeks and mercilessly blew over the table. The audience stands. When the final whistle sounded, the audience at the scene, looking at the miserable-looking Kuroko Junior High School players, was silent for a while and finally caught up with the rhythm and applauded for Okayama in the cheering of the Okayama cheering group. So strong. Okayama's lineup this year is much stronger than the previous year, and much stronger, although the third-year players in the starting lineup are not as good as the ones who retired last year. With the addition of these two first-year rookies, the strength has improved. Improved a lot. In this game, I can only think of number 5 and number 6, Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Oka Kaseyuki. It's Okayama. I knew that the team that could play such a game with Kitano Castle 2 years ago, with such mental strength, how could it be so easy? There is hope. Okayama's regrets from the previous year will definitely be made up this year. The audience's discussions could be vaguely heard by everyone in the Okayama cheering stands. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but raise their heads and think, "You're right. Say more. I want to hear it." Especially Asakawa Yui, the leader, and the Okayama basketball team members who were buried in the cheering group. On the other side, compared to Okayama, it was a gloomy cloud. The players of Gwangla Middle School quietly looked at the bench of Okayama. To be more precise, there were two first-year freshmen of Okayama with similar body shapes, one with silver hair and the other with black hair. Especially for Sendou Mitsuki. Everyone had the same idea about him. One of the substitutes who came on the bench in the fourth quarter to feel the intensity couldn't help but say that Sendou Mitsuki is really like a demon king, especially when he grabbed rebounds and blocked shots with red eyes. Everyone of Gwangla Middle School, Jin Zong changing, was even more silent, and suddenly he shuddered with a chill. Thinking back, what? Scoring in the single digits. 5 rebounds. Besides being embarrassed for Jin Zong changing, there's something more important. That is, he is already in the 3rd grade, and his summer has ended here. Jin Zong changing. As the captain, I haven't been able to show my skills yet. 3 months. It's all over. Sorry, everyone. Kim Jang Changyoung tried to hold back his words, but when he looked at everyone who was in a low mood, he didn't know how to continue. He had imagined that he would lead the team to break the record and go to the national team in the last national preliminaries, but he was eliminated in the first round, making everything a fantasy. I seem so weak, but my body has grown up, and I've been working hard for 3 years and have never slacked off. Compared to Sendou Mitsuki, isn't it a bit pathetic for someone like me who is confident but has no talent? Is that guy already laughing at me? Just as Kim Jang Changyoung fell from the height of his confidence and inevitably had wild thoughts, failure and frustration, loss and lamentation, confusion and distress, nothingness and depravity were about to swallow him up. Pa, the coach of Gwangla Middle School, patted his shoulder gently and hugged him. Jin Zong, everything has just begun. For you, you still need a stronger and more confident heart. Coach, Jin Zong changing couldn't help but think of himself before the game. Isn't it confident enough? The coach clearly saw through Jin Zong changing doubts. You do need to be a little reckless at your age. Jin Zong changing. Just reckless. But if the goal is to continue to climb up the road of basketball, then when necessary, you must also learn the courage to raise the white flag. There are too many people with outstanding talents and abilities. Admit your failures, draw nutrients from them, and continue to move forward. For you, it is a stronger heart. This is just junior high school basketball. On the road of basketball, it is not an exaggeration to say that you are still at the beginning. There's still a long way to go. There are many people who will not explode until high school and college. In the future, everything is still uncertain. There are still infinite possibilities. Coach Gwangla patted Jin Zong changing shoulder, and the latter's whole body stiffened for a moment because he understood why the coach said these words. Until the coach spoke again, his vision was blurred. Do you understand? Kinzo. Yes, I understand. You need to have a stronger heart. Yes. Well, thank you for your hard work, Captain Kinzo. No, I am not good enough, and I only think recklessness is confidence. But today's failure, I will never let it be meaningless, and I will continue to work hard next. Use this stronger heart. Chapter 037. The ability entry of number 2053 Kuroko Basketball World Ogioka Kaseyuki is zero-sum game. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability entry zero-sum game of Ogioka Kasuki. No. 2053, Black Basketball World. Zero-sum game, LV. In the field of two-point shots, when facing the opponent's block, your strong shot hit rate will gain a certain hit bonus based on your own scoring-related attributes, and the opponent's block success rate will also decrease to a certain extent. Under strict competition, the gain of one party must mean the loss of the other party. The sum of the gains and losses of all parties in the game is always 0. This ability entry cannot be upgraded. At this moment, a smile appeared on the corner of Shantae Guanyue's mouth. Although the sequence of this reward is a little later than the restricted area series, including fingertip magic, that has been obtained, and it has even directly changed from 3 digits to 4 digits. It is actually a very good ending entry, and is also in line with Shantae Guanyue's expectations for a good start to the competition. As for the point that the sequence is further back, Shantae Guanyue thinks that if this entry is not unable to be upgraded, it should at least be an entry in the front 3-digit sequence. Considering the characteristics, if it is really open for upgrade, it may even be an ability that can compete with the real formless shot. But it's a pity. After all, it's number 2053. But in any case, for the moment, it's already very good. Shantae's finishing ability is mediocre. The restricted area offense depends entirely on the secondary offense with rebounds as the core. Although it can play, there's a high probability that he will fight for rebounds when attacking. The confrontation and jumping during the period are all consumption, which invisibly aggravates a considerable part of the physical loss. Now, although the specific bonus has not been tested, at least the finishing ability will definitely increase to a certain extent. Moreover, because there is no ability to actively create offensive space, such as breakthroughs and passing, the bonus of 4 shots under the blockade of zero-sum game is definitely the most suitable finishing method for his current situation. The next day, Kitano Castle Middle School. That's right, it was Kitano City, which fought to the last drop of blood in the round-robin finals 2 years ago and finally lost to Okayama. In the first round of this year, they also won a big victory and successfully advanced. Then in the next second round, they will face their old rival, Okayama. And at this juncture, Kitano City's coach brought a piece of bad news that can be called bad news. That is, this year's Okayama is so strong that it seems a bit beyond the scope. At this time, Kitano City Basketball Department video room. The players who are watching Okayama's video are all numb. Last year, we agreed to fall behind together. Why did you suddenly take off? And the most important thing is that Kitano City and Okayama are old enemies. But that is only at the level of the basketball department, and the predecessors in the past have retired. Now, this cause and effect will fall on them. It's a bit uncomfortable, especially the center of Kitano City. Watching the first quarter of the game in the video, the figure of Sendou Mitsuki killing all around in the restricted area, such terrifying rebounding and blocking ability. Then, the uncontrollable chill of terror quickly spread in his heart. Coach Kitano City, who had already watched the video in advance, naturally knew what kind of monster Sendou Mitsuki was in the video. In his opinion, the silver-haired Demon King was really not wrong at all. But, besides, he also knew that Okayama was strong this year, not just in the freshman class. After Sendou Mitsuki went off the court in the second half, number 6, Oji Okagawa Yuki, who led last year's Okayama substitutes to continue to expand the lead throughout the third quarter, was not an easy opponent. To be honest, when he saw Oji Okagawa Yuki's full performance in the third quarter, he couldn't help but sigh deeply. The cheers at the scene might just be because of Oji Okagawa Yuki's strength, but such performance was very different in the eyes of a coach like him. The first thing he thought of was the combination of number 6 and number 5. Their abilities and playing styles were really complementary. So complementary, he even thought that this was the secret weapon that Kitagawa Masa had been cultivating for a long time. Before the game started, he was a little scared, but this was the preliminaries, and the competition system was an elimination system. If he lost a game, he would go home. This forced him to put away his fears and try his best to find a solution. But before that, it is a prerequisite to eliminate the fear of the players and let everyone have a psychological expectation. Otherwise, it is easy to be stunned as soon as they enter the court, leading to a mentality of being crushed. So, there was this video analysis. Then, as the video entered the third quarter, the video room suddenly became silent. Sendou Mitsuki plus Oji Okakayuki. At this level, what kind of strength is it? And soon, as the timeline of the video approached the end, the voices in the video room became smaller and smaller, and the voices of surprise gradually increased until the end, and everyone's faces turned pale. Intensity. Everyone saw it. There is no doubt that this was a very exciting game, but at the same time, it was undoubtedly a very terrifying one-sided massacre. The content of the game shown by Okayama from beginning to end was so strong that it made people shudder. Facing Guangla Middle School, which obviously has excellent athletic ability and skills this year, Okayama finally created a 55-point difference when the silver-haired devil was resting and played with the substitute lineup in the first half of the fourth quarter. When a member who was silently responsible for the statistics reported the data of Shuzo Mitsuki, 16 points, 29 rebounds, 18 assists, 10 blocks. Is this what a freshman can do? No. Is this what a center can do? The players of Kitano Castle were stunned. I know that Okayama has always been a strong team in Ibaraki, but it was obviously showing a decline like Kitano Castle last year, right? Otherwise, the two teams would not have met in the second round of the qualifiers this year. Do you want to be so outrageous all of a sudden? For a while, the whole room seemed to be covered by a layer of black, the representative color of Okayama. There was no sign of life. Chapter 038. No matter how fancy you are, I will give you a basketball dream. Soon, the day of the second round of the preliminaries came. When Kitanojo's players got off the school bus with solemn expressions, they saw a group of players wearing various junior high school basketball uniforms, rushing somewhere in a hurry. Everyone in Kitanojo was confused. What is this? What's going on? Soon, the Kitanojo players who followed curiously all the way to the baseball field not far from the Ibaraki Gymnasium, the venue of the game, found out the reason. Sendou, when approaching the court, the audience around, and even many players from the All-China Preliminary and Tournament were cheering for the silver-haired boy on the court. And that Sendou Mitsuki, who Kitanojo had studied the video countless times recently, was like a star surrounded by everyone, standing in the court with a free look. On the opposite side, it was obviously much older than the junior high school students, basketball enthusiasts or something. Listening to the discussion around them, everyone in Kitano City figured out the reason. In short, it was a group of basketball fans who questioned the strength of the junior high school players in the so-called All-China Conference. Then, from the first few junior high school students who lost, to losing continuously, to shaking people in the back. Shaking. Then it came to the head of Shantang Mitsuki, who volunteered. Then, Shantang Mitsuki, who was ruthless and taciturn, became more and more excited as he played here, and his eyes were red and he was crazy. For example now, facing a 180-centimeter tall uncle who was dressed in fancy clothes, with arm guards, knee pads, and headbands, everything was complete, and hit a very black style, Shantang Mitsuki threw the ball directly to him. By the way, hooked his finger. The opponent was not polite either, and started to attack after taking the ball. His movements were just like his dress. His control movements were quite fancy, and all kinds of control movements that would never appear in official competitions were dazzling. Then Shantang just stretched out one hand and put the other hand on his waist, standing there watching the show. Uncle, arrogant kid, watch this. Seeing that Shantang Guanyue was indifferent, the uncle suddenly made a front body change of direction, and then, with Shantang chasing behind him and deliberately sending him to the restricted area, he easily broke into the restricted area. Layup, pull back the fake move. Shoot again, but in fact, it was a street ball move that pretended to shoot, but the ball was clamped between the legs and not shot. However, it was completely different from what the uncle expected. Shantang Guanyue still did not jump up to block the shot, just unmoved, looking at him with a playful face. The next second, the uncle took the ball back from under his crotch, and when he was ready to shoot, Shantang went up and blocked his head, pressed down hard in the air, bounced horribly, and looked down at him. For a while, people and horses on the court fell. Looking at the embarrassed uncle and the silver-haired devil of Okayama, Sendou Mitsuki, the audience exclaimed and cheered again, and helped Sendou keep count. The players of Kitano Castle could faintly hear. It was already the sixth person. On the court, Sendou Mitsuki looked at the players who were full of street basketball style, and for a moment he had the illusion of returning home in glory. In the past, he could only sigh at such flashy street basketball moves on such a court, but now, it's too easy for Sendou to defend them. If you like to dribble, then just dribble anyway. He only defends the shooting that the street basketball players are least good at. After you break into the penalty area, he will wait for you to shoot, whether you're making a layup or something else fancy. His own defensive experience, plus the prediction of the block by the penalty area anesthesia room, go up and give you a basketball dream. Defensive end Shantang Guanyue beat a group of street ball players who claimed to be good at controlling their dribbling and looked down on junior high school basketball. And the continuous blocking made the atmosphere on the scene quite explosive. And on the offensive end, what a coincidence, this is also one of the reasons why Shantang Guanyue came here to play. It is very boring to show off one's power within the team. Playing against different players and different defensive styles can better test the effect of zero-sum game. Of course, in fact, Shantang was excited to see the prey and couldn't help but fiddle with new terms before the official game, which accounted for a larger part the opponent just ran into the gun on the court. Shantang's offensive round. Swish. In the triple threat posture, Shantang suddenly started. How to say it? If Shantang's blocking was like a rocket that exploded and ignited, then his current start was no exaggeration to say that it was like a snail. But, in the eyes of the audience, Shantang was just teasing his opponent. This is not aimless, nor is it groundless speculation. In addition to the strong contrast in athletic performance during defense, in the previous round, Shantang Guanyue's offense was indeed too much like playing. Every time he attacks, he won't shoot unless the opponent blocks his shot in the face. It's just playing. But then the hit rate is quite impressive despite the block. Purely crushing in shooting ability. Just like now, after Shantang Guanyue started the three-threat posture, he only took one step into the three-point line, and then he stopped and dribbled the ball directly. As for the action, regardless of the actual effect, it is really cool. The straightforward provocative fake action is also very cool. 1.2 points, 3 points, a series of twitching fake actions imitating Anthony's starting action successfully ignited the opponent. Then, facing the opponent's blocking interference, the matchbox shot was made. Even then, some people exclaimed, "Good. What a quick shot." Another shot against the opponent's block. Very beautiful posture. And it went in. Chapter 039. The opponent's face turned pale after being ravaged by Sendou Mitsuki, and he didn't even have the courage to look at her. Shantang. The audience didn't think there was anything wrong with Shantang Mitsuki's use of technique to bully his opponent. On the contrary, because of the arrogant provocation of the opponent before, it aroused the hormones of the sense of substitution after the slap in the face. Everyone shouted Shantang Mitsuki's name in ecstasy, and the whole stadium seemed to be ignited. Next, Shantang Mitsuki was completely unethical in attack. Just one move, zero-sum game. After shooting so many times, he also understood the rules of this move's current impact on his hit rate. Based on his current shooting attributes and shooting movements, the lower limit has not been tested because the opponent's blocking ability is visibly worrying and can only fluctuate to 30% at most, but the upper limit, definitely 60%. Then what are you still hesitating about? Shoot. And you have to shoot against the block. Just by shooting hard, he got a hit rate of nearly 50%. This is a pretty good hit rate, even for a shooter in junior high school. Not to mention that Sendou Mitsuki still shoots every ball like a joke. As for not making the shot, that's even more exciting. The silver-haired devil in the penalty area makes a brilliant appearance. Bang Bang grabs the rebound. The baseball player's scalps are numb. The opponent who competed with him for the rebound felt sore all over in the few rounds of confrontation in the penalty area, and the whole person seemed to be falling apart. Sendou Mitsuki smiled, and the opponent was sweating. The atmosphere on the scene was warm, and the atmosphere of Kitanojo in the crowd was cold. On the day of the game, I suddenly found that the opponent I had studied for a long time was more outrageous than expected. What kind of mood was that? It was just like Kitanojo now, with heavy expressions as if water was about to condense. On the court with other purposes, Sendou Mitsuki is extremely efficient. He played one after another, opponents who like to control the ball. In front of Sendou Mitsuki, the problem of flashy style of play is fully exposed, and Sendou Mitsuki also tells them with practical actions not to look down on junior high school basketball. Miracle in the second grade of junior high school will bloom one after another and play science fiction basketball. Were you pretending 3 balls per game? Sendou Mitsuki is extremely efficient. Less than 3 minutes per person, almost 10 people, only half an hour has passed. Moreover, because it is not like a formal game that requires back and forth running, he does not dribble much when shooting and shoots when facing the block. When defending, he does not work too hard, rushing into the penalty area close to the opponent and flying as a sweat. These actions have the blessing of the entry to share the physical consumption, which makes everyone surprised to find that Sendou Mitsuki has not sweated much until now. Kitano-chung. Another point of wrong analysis. Physical fitness. In the first round, Sendou Mitsuki took a break in the second half. Was it really because of physical fitness problems? It doesn't look like it at all. At this moment, the people in Kitano Castle who were staring at Sendou Mitsuki saw that after another block, the opponent suddenly showed an excited and horrifying smile. Then, it seemed that the players from Okayama had arrived and were talking on the side. But looking at Sendou Mitsuki, he had no intention of stopping the game. Instead, he just chatted with the sidelines and defended calmly as if he was taking a walk. This move obviously made the opponent explode. Yes, they admitted that they talked too loudly at the beginning. But this kid is too insulting. While Sendou Mitsuki turned his head to talk to the people on the sidelines, the opponent's wild ball player immediately broke through and rushed to the basket with the ball. He had good speed and strong explosive power. However, in Okayama, the first year Hino Jinya reminded Shantang on the sidelines. Then, everyone looked at Shantang Mitsuki, who was still talking nonstop, saying, "I'll go back soon after the end," while jumping up and grabbing the opponent's dunk ball from the air with one hand. Oh my God, it's not, right? Are you kidding? This is a junior high school student? Shantang Mitsuki completed an aerial block, which not only surprised the audience, but also several first-year teammates in Okayama and Kitano-chung, who loves to analyze recently, were also dumbfounded. The first years, they're the biggest victims of practicing with Shantang Mitsuki. They know Shantang Mitsuki's blocking ability better than anyone else. But just now, not only the response time to judge the timing, but also the explosive speed, all caused this block to be so leisurely and outrageous. The first-year players who are forwards, the small forward Hino Jinya and the power forward Tianjin Chang, who are the most frequently criticized, looked at each other and said, "Is Sentong jumping faster?" Okay, it seems so. That's right. The reason why Sentong was misunderstood for his ferocious smile was because of this. After the rebounding entry operating room in the penalty zone, the second block entry anesthetic room in the penalty zone finally reached LV.2. Now, the only entry that has not been further obtained is fingertip magic. On the court, Sentong Mitsuki was talking to his teammates while protecting the ball with his back to the basket and moving. If you don't consider that he was holding his upper body straight and leaning casually from time to time, he should be playing a singles game with his back to the basket. Bang! Bumped Sentong Mitsuki, raised his leg, and stood on one leg swish. Oh, good luck for such a difficult shot. According to the test of Sendou Mitsuki, the upper and lower limit hit rate will drop by 10% compared with a normal melon shooting posture. This ball is indeed more lucky. Sendou, Captain Lingwei said that you should go back now. One more round. Just after he finished speaking, there was another round of cheers at the scene. Facing the opponent's attack on the basket, Sendou Mitsuki went up and hit the door like a devil, nailing the ball to the board. Hey Sendou, the last round. Okay. Sendou, why did you serve again? On the court, during this period of time, The opponent's face was bruised by Sendou Mitsuki, and at this time, he didn't even have the courage to look at Sendou Mitsuki, especially noticing that someone around took out a mobile phone to record, which made their faces even more embarrassed. Hello. Oh, going back to work overtime? Great, I'll go back now. After a while, the baseball players each had their own acting skills, and they all scattered like birds and beasts. That's it. Shan Tang looked regretful. He turned his head and aimed at the junior high school players on the sidelines. Want to play two balls? Hearing this, the lucky Kitano City players who were targeted shook their heads in silence, and at the same time silently set the tone for their ill-fated all-middle school qualifying. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. There is no chance of winning. Chapter 040. 12 out of 19 shots. A strange shooting performance in which Shan Tang must force shot every ball. Ibaraki, All-China Qualifying Tournament, second round. Okayama versus Kitano Castle. In terms of strength, Kitano Castle, which entered the finals with Okayama the year before last, was indeed a good team, but like Okayama, its strength has declined sharply since last year. And this year, you could tell by the pale faces of all the players on the other side. The strength is far from the same. Okayama started with the same lineup. Center Sendou Mitsuki, power forward Kurono Yuji, small forward Suzuwa Shigeru, shooting guard Oji Okakase Yuki, point guard Shirkai Hyde. In this game, Kitano Castle Junior High School chose to shrink the inside line according to the preparations made during this period of time in defense, in order to target Sendou Mitsuki, who beat up Kuroko Junior High School in the penalty area in the previous game. That's right. Even though they saw Sendou Mitsuki's shooting ability on the baseball field before the game, they still had to do it, because there's no other way, no matter how you think about it. Compared to the mid-range shot that Shan Tang Mitsuki will at least miss, his stirring up trouble in the restricted area will definitely cause much more damage to Kitanojo. Besides, Shan Tang Mitsuki is a center. If he wants to pull out to shoot, considering his ability to pass the ball, he can't be double-teamed outside, so he can only choose to use a slightly shorter but more flexible power forward to defend 1v1. Obviously, Kitanojo Middle School is determined to block the restricted area. But unfortunately, Shan Tang Mitsuki has considered his own ability terms very clearly and chose a very tricky point, a position that requires a shot and can dominate the restricted area. Free throw line. So Shan Tang Mitsuki took Kitanojo Middle School in this game and tried his scoring ability for the first time in the official arena. And he had a great time. Opening, in the eyes of everyone in astonishment. Zero-sum game. At the free throw line, facing the block of the power forward. Whoosh. Hit. Free throw line position back to the basket. Turn forward. Raise your hand. Fake move. 1 point. 2 points. Take the initiative to light up the opponent and shoot against the block. Hit again. Next, it's the free throw line again. After 2 consecutive hits, this time he doesn't need to twitch and fake moves. As soon as he raises his hand, the defender jumps up in panic. Mellow shot, which is only handsome.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.